For 30 years, the police were hunting a monster, but they never looked at the man enforcing city rules, attending church, and raising a family, because no one expects a serial killer to look this normal. He called himself BTK, bind, torture, kill. Not a nickname given by the media, but a name he chose himself. Between 1974 and 1991, BTK murdered 10 people in and around Wichita, Kansas. He stalked his victims carefully, broke into their homes, restrained them, and killed them by strangulation. These were not crimes of passion. They were deliberate, ritualistic acts carried out to satisfy a need for control. After 1991, the killing stopped. No letters, no taunts, no clues. For more than a decade, investigators believed BTK had either died or disappeared. But what happened next is the reason this case is still studied today, because BTK didn't come back to kill. He came back to brag. The man behind BTK was Dennis Rader, and his greatest weapon wasn't violence, it was invisibility. Rader blended seamlessly into the fabric of everyday life. He held steady jobs, volunteered at his church, and raised 2 children with his wife. He wasn't a loner or a drifter. He was dependable, strict, and ordinary. While families grieved and police struggled, Rader lived freely among them. He followed news coverage of his own crimes, sometimes growing irritated by inaccuracies or the lack of attention. To him, the murders were achievements that deserved recognition. As you listen, ask yourself this: how well do you really know the people around you? Dennis Rader was born on March 9, 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and raised in Wichita. By most accounts, his childhood appeared normal. He lived in a stable household with 4 brothers and attended school regularly. But later in life, Rader described feeling emotionally neglected, particularly by his mother, an experience he believed shaped his resentment toward women. More troubling were the fantasies he later admitted to developing during childhood. Rader confessed that he became sexually aroused by thoughts of women being restrained, helpless, and afraid. These thoughts were not fleeting. They returned repeatedly, becoming more detailed and more intense over time. And instead of acting on them immediately, he practiced them in his mind for years. After graduating high school, Rader joined the United States Air Force in 1966, serving until 1970. Military life provided him with structure and reinforced his attraction to authority and control. When he returned to civilian life, he married, had children, and enrolled in college. To the outside world, he appeared to be settling into adulthood responsibly. Internally, however, his violent fantasies continued to grow. He began stalking women, watching their routines, and imagining scenarios in which he had total dominance. The line between imagination and action began to blur, setting the stage for his first attack. On January 15, 1974, Dennis Rader committed his first known murders. He entered the Wichita home of the Otero family, where Joseph and Julie Otero lived with their children. Inside the house that morning were Joseph, Julie, and 2 of their children, Joseph Jr., age 9, and Josephine, age 11. Rader originally planned to kill a single victim, but when he encountered the entire family, he decided to proceed anyway. He bound all 4 using materials he brought with him. He strangled the parents and young Joseph Jr., then took Josephine to the basement where he hanged her from a pipe. What shocked police wasn't just the brutality, it was how little evidence he left behind. There were no signs of forced entry, no robbery, and no clear motive. Investigators struggled to understand why an entire family had been wiped out by a stranger. The randomness of the crime terrified Wichita residents, many of whom believed they could be next. Police canvassed neighborhoods, questioned suspects, and searched desperately for leads, but the case stalled quickly. What investigators didn't know was that the killer was watching closely. Rader followed news coverage of the murders and grew frustrated that he wasn't receiving public credit for what he considered his work. He didn't want silence. He wanted recognition. Shortly after the Otero murders, a local Wichita newspaper received a letter. The writer claimed responsibility for the killings and criticized police for their failure to catch him. The letter included details only the killer could know: confirming its authenticity. At the bottom, the writer signed off with 3 words: bind, torture, kill. This was the first time the name BTK appeared. It was not a media invention, it was Rader's own creation. By naming himself, he transformed the case from a mystery into a spectacle. And this was only the beginning of his communication with the world. Over the following years, BTK sent additional letters, poems, and messages to police and media outlets. His writing was filled with misspellings, cryptic clues, and self-pity. He complained about being ignored and mocked investigators for their failures. Each communication heightened public fear while feeding Rader's ego. For law enforcement, the letters were both a curse and a clue, proof that the killer was still active, but no closer to identifying him. If you were a detective at this point, would you publish these letters or keep them secret? Throughout the late 1970s and 1980s, BTK continued killing. His victims included Catherine Bright, Shirley Vian, Nancy Fox, and others. His method rarely changed. He stalked his victims, entered their homes, restrained them, and killed them by strangulation. Rader often took personal items from the crime scenes, which he later used to relive the murders through fantasy. These killings were not impulsive. They followed carefully planned routines that reinforced his sense of power and control. But while police searched for a monster, BTK was becoming something far more dangerous. He was becoming comfortable. Years passed without capture, reinforcing his belief that he was smarter than everyone else. Each successful crime strengthened his confidence and reduced his caution. This growing sense of superiority would eventually make him careless, but for now, it allowed him to continue killing undetected. Dennis Rader worked for ADT Security Services, installing alarm systems in people's homes, an ironic job given his crimes. Later, he became a Park City compliance officer, issuing citations and enforcing city codes. Neighbors described him as controlling and overly strict, but not dangerous. He was also deeply involved in his church, serving as a church council president and Cub Scout leader. These roles reinforced his image as a responsible, trustworthy man. And that image is exactly why no one ever suspected him. BTK wasn't hiding from society. He was protected by it. Police were searching for someone suspicious, unstable, or visibly dangerous. Instead, the killer was someone people trusted. His disguise wasn't a mask, it was his life. In 1991, after murdering Dolores Davis, BTK stopped. There were no more killings and no communications. For 13 years, the case went cold. Investigators speculated that the killer might have died or been imprisoned for another crime. Public fear slowly faded, and BTK became a footnote in criminal history. And that anger would bring him back. Dennis Rader had not changed. He was aging, growing resentful, and increasingly bitter that the world had forgotten him. That need for recognition, the same one that drove his letters decades earlier, was about to resurface. In 2004, BTK resumed contact with the media. He sent letters, photographs, and personal items belonging to his victims. His tone was arrogant and mocking. Then he asked police a critical question. Can a floppy disk be traced? Police responded falsely, saying it could not. BTK believed them. Rader sent the disk. Investigators extracted metadata linking it to Christ Lutheran Church and a user named Dennis. For the first time, BTK had exposed himself. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader was arrested. DNA evidence confirmed he was BTK. The arrest stunned the community. Friends, neighbors, and church members struggled to reconcile the man they knew with the crimes he committed. The man who demanded attention finally had it and couldn't escape it. In court, Rader calmly described each murder in detail. He showed no remorse. In June 2005, he pled guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. Dennis Rader was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms with no possibility of parole. He will spend the rest of his life in prison. His case reshaped how law enforcement handles media engagement with offenders and highlighted the dangers of ego-driven criminals. Because BTK taught investigators something terrifying. Evil doesn't always look dangerous. Sometimes it looks ordinary. If this story unsettled you, share it. Not to remember the killer, but the victims.